Hi, I'm Blair Bozek. Today's date is the 14th of January 2003, and I'm here to tell you about my experiences on 9/11. I was in my office in the Pentagon when the aircraft hit, and backing that up slightly, one of our office mates had received a phone call announcing the aircraft striking the World Trade Center. So the other 8 office mates and I gathered around a television set and watched. I think we saw the second aircraft hit, or perhaps a replay soon thereafter. And so we were well aware of what happened in New York. Luckily for us, as it turns out, we went back to our desks and closed the conference room where we had the TV. And I was at my desk on the telephone on the first floor. The office was right off of Corridor 5, and the office number was 1D543, if that means anything to the listener. On the first floor, the second outermost corridor, the D ring, and our office stretched from the C to the D ring. Anyway, on the phone, as it hit, instantly the power went out. My phone went dead, and either I was slammed forward towards the wall or the desk was slammed or something, but either I had wall coming into me or I was thrown forward into the desk, into the wall. Regardless, instant devastation in the office. The sound I remember I describe as exploding dominoes. Apparently the aircraft high energy pieces ripping through the outer the E ring, the D ring, and the C ring of the building. There was an office mate, Melody Johnson, who'll talk to this group in 2 days. She was sitting next to me, and instantly the whole office came tumbling down around us. Our office was sort of the back corner towards the C ring of our office, and the other 7 members of Air Force Test and Evaluation, TEP is the office symbol, were able to start scrambling out through our main door into the D ring. One of the fellows came back to check on us, and he actually gave us some help as far as which way to climb over the debris. But what had been a wall with a door was now just a mass of trash, probably about 8 feet high. And it took some climbing on top of desks and chairs and stuff like that to get across that. I made a point of being the last one out of the office. I wanted to make sure Melody got out okay. And so Lieutenant Colonel Jim Edge was leading her on, or coaching her from outside our office, and then I was behind, and she got out by herself over the first wall of debris. And then we almost walked, half ran through the debris field in our main office, and that required us climbing over one more pile of trash, and I believe it was primarily ceiling material, wall dividers knocked around. I think we climbed the top of a desk or a table. What was interesting also was I had the thought at the time, since our entire office was a classified area and we had classified material all over the place, I had the thought to protect the classified, but in fact the devastation was so bad, and we actually had aircraft pieces in our office, small pieces of aluminum molten shrapnel that were burning as I got out. I was the last of the 9 people to get out, and we maintained a audio or oral and visual daisy chain because the smoke was building pretty good. As I remember, smoke was down to the mid-chest level as I exited, and I believe the lights were all out except for some emergency lighting, although my office mates claim we had lighting earlier, so I think it degraded over the 60 or 90 seconds it took to get us out of the office. It's also worth noting that our office was about 450 to 500 feet on the ground floor directly from the impact point, which was at Corridor 4 around the 2nd floor level, but on an angle towards us. As we worked to get out, we heard lots of confusion and shouting and screaming and stuff, and it turns out that the 7 DIA folks that were killed were in the office in the C ring Our back door, and therefore the back wall of my little cubbyhole office, was probably about 25 or 35 feet from the front door of that office. So we were very close to the devastation, but by a couple of degrees of heading from what the airplane impacted at, we were able to walk away rather than being pinned in there or trapped by high energy debris or the flame front of the fire. Anyway, so as I got out, we turned right and then turned left immediately into corridor 5 and ran out towards the E-ring and then the double doors outside the building. As I remember, corridor 5 and the D and E rings were almost pitch black, and smoke was building very heavily, lots of debris. And as I exited the building, following the voices pretty much in the legs, the person ahead of me, because of the smoke, one of my office mates was picking up a baby, unbelievably, just outside of the building. And apparently, one Army young lady had a day off that day, brought her baby to work, and so one of my guys was helping pick up the mother, and the other one picking up the baby and running with it, almost like a football, but carefully, to get away from the building. My 8 office mates, including myself, collected to the right as we came out of the building by the security guard shack for the mall parking lot. That, as it turns out, is where the camera position was that later recorded via the security camera the aircraft impacting the building. One of our members had exited via corridor 5 to the inside of the building and ended up seeing a lot more destruction and presumably death than we did. However, as soon as I got out there looking around, I was amazed to see where the airplane hit, because I was expecting it would have hit around the mall or riverside of the building and not there at corridor 4. However, I was also shocked because I've got a brother 2 years younger that, like myself, is retired military and a contractor, and his office was right behind the impact point on the 3rd floor in the C ring. And obviously I had no idea what happened to him, but based on what I saw of the airplane hitting the building, I presumed he was gone. The initial appearance of the airplane impacting the building was a large bullet hole about the width of the fuselage, and everything outside of that structure, I presume, was pretty much vaporized by the explosion. The Pentagon grounds in front of the building on the impact side was littered with pieces of airplane fragments and just debris, most of it very, very small. And I believe the engines were laying around, one to the corridor 5 area in the direction of Roslyn of the building, and also I think one of them was over in the mall parking lot by corridor 6. Anyway, my biggest surprise coming out of the building was that I was expecting terrorists with guns pinning people down as they came out. So luckily the strike wasn't that coordinated. But the other shock was there was nobody out there, and there were very few survivors coming out of the building out corridor 5, and there was no rescue activity, of course, yet going on. So I turned back to the building as soon as I caught my breath and ran back to the building, and then ended up running along the outer perimeter wall of the Pentagon from corridor 5 to the impact point of the aircraft at corridor 4. And what I was doing there was stopping at every window. Most of them were broken, and I would jump up the windowsill, looking into the rooms for survivors, and calling for people, seeing if anyone needed help. And so I believe I either got to the building from the guard shack, either around the midpoint there behind the helipad and the fire station, or possibly I went along all of the windows. I don't remember from corridor 4 to corridor 5, but I'm certain that I went past all of the broken windows. As I got very close to the impact point, I'm talking now probably 50 to 100 feet from the impact point, and kind of running, hopping, calling into the different rooms, a fireman approached me and told me it was dangerous. I had to get out of there. And I looked at him a little disbelievingly because I knew it was dangerous and we had to be there. Anyway, as he and I were talking momentarily, I saw a hand waving in the window on the first floor right behind the fireman's head, responding to my calling into the room. And so I turned to the fireman. His name is Alan Wallace, and he is one of the 3 firemen who was on duty from the Fort Myer fire station at the helipad that day. And I got him to boost me up onto the windowsill. The intent there was the window was broken, but I knew I'd get cut very badly if I just climbed the windowsill myself. So I had him give me a boost, and he just about launched me through the window. But I was able to position myself, kneeling down and bracing myself in the windowsill, and there were 2 women just inside the window that were trapped. Their feet were trapped by debris. They were both standing, and they were to my left as I looked in the window. I believe this was the first, possibly the second window that was broken closest to the impact point. I also believe there were 3 windows just about below the impact point and towards or between corridor 4 and corridor 5 that were not broken by the aircraft impact. And so I think, as best as I can recollect, I'm now in about the 5th window towards the fire station from corridor 4 and the impact point on the ground floor. Anyway, I am now reaching way down into the room. I don't want to enter the room because the room is devastated, and I'm very concerned if I go into the room, I will have difficulty getting out, just like the ladies do, because of all of the debris. The room had already been devastated by the explosion. Everything was black. Smoke was at about the lower chest level if I would kneel up in the window frame, so I'd have to come down very low to get a breath. And I spent the next few seconds digging out the nearest of the 2 ladies. While I was doing all this, a 3rd woman came out of the smoke. She had her left arm and shoulder burned quite badly, and so I temporarily let the 2 ladies, half freed, stay where they were, and reached in farther to help free the burn victim, who was standing, but there was significant, probably metal studs, wall studs, I'm presuming, or perhaps framework from the ceiling material that was almost like an aluminum cornfield. It was what the impression I had, except all of the edges were razor sharp, and everything was hot, and obviously just burned or had a flame front going through there. So I spent, perhaps 30 to 60 seconds freeing her and guiding her towards me in the windowsill, and then with some effort was able to lift and drag her across my lap and then pass her to the waiting fireman down below, Alan, that I mentioned earlier. What I did not know, apparently, is that even though Alan was in position, she was bigger than he, and he's about 5'6" probably, and I presume that when I passed her out the window to him, the dead weight and his lack of balance ended up pinning him to the ground, so his 2 fireman cohorts came rushing out to help her, and in so doing to free him. Anyway, I got back to reaching in to free the other 2 women, and as I said, they were both standing, but their feet were pinned, and so I was reaching quite deeply into the room. The floor was all destroyed, and there were, I think, bricks, whether it was tiles or bricks or what, I do not know, but it took some digging with my bare hands to remove the material to free the first lady, and then I was able to lift and drag her out the windowsill and pass her down to Alan down below. The 3rd woman was a little more problematic because because I had to actually have her move back into the room more to be able to free material. I think it was metal material, like sheet metal of some sort, like a desktop perhaps, or side of a desk that was sort of acting like a big spring holding her in. So once I got her to take a couple steps back, I was able then to move the material and similarly raise her and lift, drag, and then pass her to the firemen or firemen down below. All this time, the smoke was getting thicker, and I did not think about it until later, but in fact there was fire all around on the outside of the building. The fire truck close by between my position and the fire station had been destroyed by the impact, and I think it was at least smoking, if not on fire. And there was an automobile belonging to one of the Army troops that worked in the control tower for the helipad that I think was off to my left as I was sitting, or if I would look over my shoulder out from the building, and I believe that was to the other side towards the impact point. But regardless, there was smoke and flame all around, and by the time I got the three ladies out and jumped back down to the ground, the firemen had, I guess, taken the three victims out, and or they were organizing and doing more rescue activity. In retrospect, we were just very lucky. The smoke got to me pretty good though, and I tried to shake it off, but it was clear after a few minutes, and then we had the false alarms about another aircraft that was inbound, so everyone abandoned the area in front of the building between the impact point and Washington Boulevard and tried to take cover by one of the overpasses, by Columbia Pike, I guess. Anyway, I was quite hypoxic, and finally an Air Force guy grabbed me and took me to the triage area, and I ended up sitting down and getting a tank of oxygen to clear my lungs. I was very hypoxic. As a former crew member, I know the signs of oxygen deprivation, so I was very hypoxic, but it was amazing, the particulates, the junk in the air as you're trying to breathe it, and I looked a mess, I guess, with the hair being pretty singed. Luckily that day I was in jeans, black jeans, and a black work shirt, t-shirt actually, rather than a suit, because we were packing up our office that day, and so I think my coloring and from all of the soot and stuff matched the black of the shirt and the jeans. And putting two and two together after the fact, it was evident that Alan and his two firemen, who were lucky not to be killed by the impact, and myself started the rescue activity on the outside of the building by the impact point, and they were able to continue on and do some good work that day. I was out of it long enough from the smoke inhalation that by the time I got oxygen, things were better organized. I stayed around there the rest of the day, and actually was on stretcher duty until about 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then when we were relieved. But I was unable to materially contribute after rescuing the three ladies and getting the smoke. But Alan and I have spoken afterwards, and we have ascertained that we had initiated the rescue activities on the outside of the building by the impact point, and we're just very, very glad that we were able to help, and also that we were not badly injured. I had just cuts and bruises, and he had, I think, a separated shoulder or a broken collarbone and some minor burns. But in essence, that was my day. The good news was my brother was also able to escape. His building, or his room, was in the renovated part of the building, and therefore was stronger. Ours was the older part of the building. It was about to begin renovation, and I was able to make contact probably an hour and a half or 2 hours after the attack and talk to my parents, and they were able to confirm my brother got out okay. So after that, at least personally, I just wanted to stay help all I could, but was obviously in some shock and very irate over what happened that day, and have been gratified to see the the activities within this building over the last year and a half and what we're doing worldwide with Al-Qaeda. That concludes my memoirs of 9/11.